Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Tim Knight, and today is the 4th of July when this is being recorded. So you might be hearing some bombs bursting in the air. Don't be alarmed. All right, this is just people out there celebrating and doing what they do. And I can't let it stop what I'm trying to do. You know what I'm saying? So this is part two of a bigger conversation. If you have not watched my first video, you should. Because it's dealing with accountability. Now, this is such a touchy subject, but I'm the right person to do it. You know, I've written a book called The Uncomfortable Truth, and in that book, it addressed a number of things. That was primarily centered around religion and how people of color showed up with regard to the Bible. Now, this is not going to be about a long dissertation on my thoughts on the Bible, but this is going to be in relation to how we show up in the world when it comes to accountability. So the first video was just kind of all over the place in some regards. I was dealing with the whole music thing, but really it all intertwines together because it all comes back to one thing. What are we accepting? What is the story that's being told on behalf of people of color? Who are the storytellers? Who gets to dictate what culture is for us? You see, I'm of the opinion that the people that is put out front, that become our spokesmen and women, they are a representative of us, as if we are a monolith. We know that we are not, right? But if a person in Butte, Montana, if that's such a place, if their only interaction or their only view of people of color comes from what they see in music videos, the images that's portrayed of us on the television screen, the movies, if they have no other reference point for us, if they were ever to venture out and meet somebody like myself, they would already have a preconceived notion about who we are and what we represent and what we stand for. So the question becomes, are we happy with the images that shape us? Okay? Now, we know that there's a big machine that's behind all of the smoke and mirrors. Now, most of us are intelligent enough to know that all people are not the same. All right? So I often get secondhand embarrassment when I see us looking crazy, acting crazy, and talking crazy. Now, what prompted all of this conversation was this big debate with Young Miami's song. All my scamming ass, you know what, okay, and my boosting bees. Now, me being someone who's musically inclined, I too make music, right? So from an artist perspective, I'm like, that took no creativity whatsoever to do. They sat down and came up with a formula. That's something I learned, I think maybe the first time I went to LA, was that there is a formula to music. Okay? The people don't just come up with hit records out the blue. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to do, but there is a formula. And I learned that from Dr. Luke. So he was the producer behind Katy Perry, all of these big time pop artists. There is a formula. And that's what we learned in the class. Because at the ASCAP Expo, which I was part of, they had workshops. So in these workshops, you can sit down and he actually deconstructed her song. What song was it? I don't know. One of her hit songs, but it had on a big screen, and he broke down how he layered the tracks, the whole process. So there's a pre-hook, there's a hook, and the songwriting. So this is very methodical. Okay. And then there's a formula that if you really start to listen to a lot of your hit songs, they have a similar flow to it. Okay. So I say all that to say it's not happenstance when you find a song so catchy, when you're playing the right chords and the right beats. Now, most people first get captivated by what? The beat, the music. If you have a good enough beat, a strong hook, you can say virtually anything in between because people are not really thinking that deep about it. And that's kind of the whole point. You have a group of people out here talking about, oh, it's just a song. It's no big deal. It's just music. And they also argue, well, hey, she's not the first person to make a record like this. You got men out here making records, misogynistic music, okay, degrading, all this type of stuff. This is true. So does that give an artist like Young Miami free reign just to do anything? Let's think about this. You got Sexy Red, who came and pushed the envelope with the overtly sexy music. Now, before her, of course, we got to go back to Lil' Kim. We got to go back to Foxy Brown. Okay, so that was really cutting edge at that time. That was raunchy. Okay, that was extreme. So we're not going to front like we didn't have this type of music before. However, they were real MCs. Lil' Kim can actually spit. She can rap. Foxy Brown can definitely rap. Does that justify how they were allowed themselves really to be objectified and talk about such nonsense? No. But we've done that. That's kind of my point, right? Like, we have done this type of music for 30 years. They came out in 94, 95. It is now 2026. And the conversation in the music is still the same. Even on the men's side. We've been talking about the same subject matter for 30 years. Let that sink in. Now, the original purpose and intent of hip hop music, originally, from what I understood about it, was that it was giving you a look into the reality for a lot of black people in the country at the time. It was like a news feed, okay? Like, this is what's really going on. Like, the message, these songs, and then you had the fun songs, the dance, skating, music, fun stuff, right? So you had a combination. But then, as I mentioned in the other video, you also had a level of consciousness. You had the brothers like X-Clan. You had, what's his name, Public Enemy. You had Poor Righteous Teachers. You had Queen Latifah. So there was variety, okay? So you could listen to the so-called gangster rap if you wanted to, but also if you wanted to be a little bit more conscious with yourself, you can listen to something else. You can turn that off and still have some music that you can enjoy and relate to. Today, it's all been condensed down into one lane of foolishness. Of course, being older, a lot of the young people might say, oh, you old, you don't understand. No, Negro, I don't understand how we could be talking about the same garbage for the last 30 years and don't feel inclined to make a difference. The problem is we don't feel it's worth the time and effort to say to these companies, listen, we don't want to hear this garbage no more. We as people of color are super creative, all right? We can do anything. We can make anything sound good. And given the climate and the state of affairs concerning people of color with the jail system and all that's happening in the world concerning us, this is probably the last type of music and imagery we want to paint for our next generation. Bad enough we got people that's my age that still haven't learned their lesson, who still engage in frivolous activities that lands them in the prison system I mean, it might be a lost cause, okay? If you're 35, 40, and you still committing crimes and you still doing things that you know you shouldn't be doing, I don't know what else could be said to you, because you are making a conscious decision to do whatever you feel that you want to do. So this might be lost on you altogether, okay? So I'm really talking to our younger people. I was talking to a girl, as I mentioned, and we were having a conversation, and she asked me, we were talking about something, and it kind of led to accountability with certain things. And she was like, "But you never been locked up? You never been in jail?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She asked me about 2, 3 times, like she was really surprised that I was never in jail. Like, for some people, that really truly has become a badge of honor. It's the most ignorant, asinine thing I could ever think about, is the fact that it's shocking to someone to have not been in jail. Why would I want to give up the comforts of home to be able to move freely and do whatever it is I want to do? For what? It's about accountability. That's a lost concept for some people. It's always somebody else. It's somebody else's fault as to why you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Okay, you're not obeying the laws of the land. This is the land in which you live. Now, I'm not saying it's right, okay, but this is what it is. So we got the sovereign citizens out there. I bought 2 of the books. There was 2 little small books that was going around. Saw it on TikTok, and I bought them, and I read them. And a lot of what they say makes sense. You know, if you're talking about constitutional things of that nature. However, those tenets and I say the tenets, I guess, I don't know how else to put it, but what they're talking about makes sense, yes, as a doctrine, as how can I put it? Nonetheless, it's not that I disagree with what they're saying. It's just that that is not recognized statewide, because you're on county roads, for instance. So if you watch the police activity videos and you see people get pulled over and they're saying they're traveling. Now, you're not traveling by horse and buggy anymore, right? So you're not doing commerce and all this type of stuff, right? Those things don't matter when you get pulled over, okay? And then you ultimately go to jail, they impound your car, and now you have all these fees and all this money that you put out your pocket for what? If you want to do that, you have to go off the grid, okay? You need to get you a tract of land somewhere, build your house, get your solar panels, get your water irrigation system going on. You need to really prepare for that. That way you don't have to deal with anything else. You could just be. There's nothing wrong with that. But my point of all of this so far is that a lot of us keep creating situations for ourselves. You know that's not going to work out. You know when you go to court and you talking that, they're looking at that as foolishness. You're talking about they don't have jurisdiction. Well, I don't necessarily agree with what's going on. But I had to look at the information and make a decision for myself. I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense for me to give up my driver's license information to basically renounce and denounce the whole United States thing that I'm part of, okay, whether I'm proud of it or not. Do I want to be harassed every time I want to go out to the store? Do I want to incur all types of fees, face jail time, not be able to get a job because I can't provide adequate information? So I just want us to start thinking a little bit more. Okay, it's one thing to be a rebel, but you want to be a rebel with a cause. You just don't want to be a rebel without a cause and just out here just making bad decisions that not only impact you, it impacts everybody around you. Okay? So if you want to do something, I think we all need to start hitting these companies and say, listen, we're tired of the foolishness. This is not just for black people. This is for all people. The key is they want us divided. Now, everyone has different plights. So, of course, person of colors, we have different things that we have to fight against just because of our skin tone. But it doesn't mean that as a collective whole, we don't have things in common that we all need to address. But see, whenever we keep dividing ourselves based on this, that, and the fourth, we'll never get in a position where we can attack the true issues that affect all of us. Everybody wants to have a safe home. You want some food in that home. You want housing. You want your lights on. You want to be able to take care of your family. That's something that everybody wants. So let's start taking more accountability for our actions, guys. I want to hear what you think in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace and blessings.